Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Weaver, Mannimal Research. Wayne is not going to be with us tonight, but we have two very well-known guests, Mr. Kenny W. Irish and Mr. Gary. I hope I say this right, Robusto. Uh, Both these guys are from New York. They're affiliated with the New York Bigfoot Society, and also with the Tri City Paranormal Society. Uh, like I say, two very knowledgeable guys. Mr. Derek Wiles is joining me tonight, and
Right, man.
we're gonna go ahead and bring
We're gonna bring them one at a time, or bring them both on.
we'll bring them both on.
All right, that's cool with me.
All right, folks, here we go. Hope you enjoy. Okay.
You don't hear that in the background, do you?
Uh-uh.
I got the live on my phone too, so I can comment. There's this
Kenny,
comment, oh man.
we're going live. I just introduced you. Kenny, if you will start off, just give us a little brief description about yourself and about what you do and what got you started into Bigfoot research.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for inviting myself and Gary on. And it's sad that Wayne can't be here, but we'll do it again where we can all be on. So yeah, my name's Kenny Irish. I'm originally from northern Vermont, and I live out in New York right now. A long time folklore creature monster lover, and that's really just kind of what pushed me to where I am right now. And I've always loved to write, so I'm also an author. I've got a book that just released in February, and I've got another one coming out in June of this year. And I joined the NYBS. I'd say a little over a year ago. I met Gary on through the New York Bigfoot Society website, and went out to one of his lectures. And then after that, we met, and I ended up joining the team. And we're just just going out there, just exploring areas and having a good time doing it.
Cool deal.
Hey man, what about your books you got out? You want to go ahead and give us the name of those?
Yeah, I just had a release in February called Stanley Riker and the Bigfoot Runaround. It's actually a young reader's chapter book. It's from ages like 6 to 10. A lot of kids in that age range don't have really any books, that have anything to do with Bigfoot or fun having to do with Bigfoot or cryptids at that age. So I was really excited to write that, and I signed back in November with a new publisher. They're called Dark Moon Press. They're out of Indiana. And so Stanley Riker and the Bigfoot Runaround was released February 15th, I believe it was, under Dark Moon Press. And my second book that I've got coming out, which is going to also be under Dark Moon Press, it's called Folklore Frankensteins. And it's pretty much, I wrote it to kind of like take people through a tour of all 50 states of this great country. So it's all in alphabetical order. We start with Alabama, and it talks about the history of Alabama, some famous people that were born in Alabama, as well as a Native American tribe from Alabama. Because in my opinion, anything that has to do with cryptids or folklore, we've learned from the Native Americans, and I take what they say very, very serious. So I really wanted to highlight them in the book as well. And then the next part of the chapter goes into a little quick blurb of whatever the famous monster is from that state, whether it be Champ from Vermont, or like the Mothman from West Virginia. And then I end the chapter with a Bigfoot encounter out of one of the counties out of that state. I go through all 50 states on it, so it took a while to write, because there's a lot of fact checking that you got to do when you're doing 50 states, and so many different aspects to each chapter. But again, that's going to be out in June under Dark Moon Press as well. So I'm pretty excited about that, and looking forward to having that having that at the festivals and conferences that I'm scheduled to be at.
Cool deal. What, Gary? I know we can't see your pretty face, and we got the little symbol there, but we know you're there. Can you talk to us a little bit about yourself too, and everything to our fans and everybody that's out there?
Well, can you guys hear me? I just think I lost you for a second.
Yep, there you are. I hear you now, loud and clear.
You can hear me?
Yep.
All right. Well, my name is Gary Robusto. Okay, cool. My name is Gary Robusto. Thank you guys so much for having us. You know what I mean? This is super cool. You know what I mean? I enjoy talking all things Squatch, so it'll be a good time. But yeah, a little bit about myself. You know what I mean? Like, I've been a Bigfooter for the past 10 years. I've been a paranormal researcher for 24. So I've been doing this a long time. I've been trained by one of the, I guess you could say, bigwigs in the Bigfoot field. Like, all my knowledge is coming from one of the higher level people, which I don't want to say who, but I've met, Jeff Meldrum. I've been on History Channel, Discovery Channel, Destination America. I've been on many Bigfoot shows. So if you watch a couple of them, you may see me on there. America's Book of Secrets, Bigfoot episode, Sasquatch Planet, also Travel Channel. Yeah, I mean, that's, I love the fascination of Bigfoot. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get into it until 10 years ago, as I've been more of a, ghost UFO type guy. Living in New York, it was something that has always been talked about. As Whitehall, New York is basically the mecca of Bigfoot research in the Northeast. And, I was like, I've done ghosts for a long time, and I've been looking into UFOs and things. I might as well add cryptids to the list of things I do. Why not? So, I got together with some people in the cryptid world. I hooked up with, one of the top people in the area, and started digging right into the whole Bigfoot phenomena. And, being, I'm an outdoorsman, so I'm a mountaineer. I do rock climbing, ice climbing, those kind of things. It kind of fits into what I do already. So, I started getting into the woods more, starting to search around, seeing what it could possibly be. And, New York is super squatchy. It really is. Like, and it's funny, like, things I would see in the woods, this hiking and bushwhacking, I started then putting something to it. And it's just a cool subject matter.
Right. I agree with that. I can go with that. Well, I get Gary, I got one question that I was going to ask you about. Since you said you've been in it for 24 years, right? Is you there?
I didn't catch that.
You mentioned that you've been doing it for about 24 years.
Yeah, I've been doing things. I mean, Bigfoot, I've been doing like about 10 years. Paranormal research for 24. Now, they are kind of side by side in those sciences. So I do have, basically 10 years of like in the woods, hardcore investigations into Bigfoot. Once I started really getting into Bigfoot, I kind of focus more on that than I do other things on my team. My other team, the Tri-City Paranormal Society, which I founded back in 2008, I have a team of people doing that, but I kind of now have gone into the New York Bigfoot Society side. So a lot of the research and studies and data that I collect is from New York and the Bigfoot phenomena in New York.
Okay. Well, been that experience and everything, it's probably could probably go both for both of y'all. What do you think probably would be the best video possibly of a Bigfoot? It's y'all, in your opinions, maybe both y'all's opinions. Gary, either one can go first. That is y'all's opinion on best video out there, maybe of a Bigfoot possible.
Yeah, I'll jump. Yeah, I'll jump on this one. It's in actuality, it's the same video that Gary believes. It's the one with the church group that was out camping, and they could see the figure out on the mountain. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but without a doubt, because again, I mean, you've got a group of young Christian boys and the one of the guy's fathers there, and there's certain people that bring, in my opinion, just might bring a little bit of credibility in. People who aren't out there looking for Bigfoot and see something like that, that really, to me, that brings a lot of credibility. And the fact that, again, they were out there on like a religious camping trip. So, for them to go out there and try to make this up and lie about it, I'm pretty sure whatever church they were associated with, if they were lying, would have come out and would have been like, whoa, hold on a second. So, even there's no up close or anything, but again, I mean, just, the figure looks solid. And again, the backstory behind it is what really makes it intriguing. When somebody comes to me who's not a Bigfooter, and they're like, "Hey, I think I saw a Bigfoot," many times I take that a little more serious than I do somebody who's actually out looking for Bigfoot. Because somebody who's out looking for Bigfoot, people know they're doing it, they're vocal about it. But when somebody comes to me and they're just like, "Hey, I think I saw something," and they're kind of nervous about it, this and that brings a lot of credibility because, again, they don't have it on their brain, but since they saw something that they can't understand, or possibly, can't place, again, that brings, in my mind, that brings a lot of credibility to it.
Awesome. You pretty much agree with that, Gary? On that video? I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Hey, Gary, are you there?
Did we lose him?
I don't
think
know.
We did.
Dang it, we lost him. Maybe we can get back in here.
Okay.
To answer your video question, if we can remember our buddy Wayne, since he's an eye in the sky, apparently. He pets Marble Mountain.
Yes, there you go. There you go. Yes. Absolutely.
I guess I've seen that video. I really do like that video. I've actually seen another video that really got my attention was the one I think the gentleman is I think Wayne knows this one. I think it's Tinker Tom or Tinker, the guy that does test videos and stuff. Tinker.
Okay. Tinker Funk.
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Okay.
He had a video showing. It was actually the footage of Yosemite, or the park up there, National Park Yellowstone.
Okay.
Where they watching the cameras watch the Old Faithful, and they caught something in the snow. Saw the buffalo. The camera caught it, and you could see actually in the background the four figures coming down and actually making. You could see the break frame by frame, and I thought that really got me pretty. I was like, wow, that's out in the middle of nowhere. There's not really nobody going to be out there because I don't think they let you get close to Old Faithful anyway, except for a distance. And the camera panning on it and watching. I thought that was pretty good. But yeah, the Marble Mountain one, that was a definitely good one.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, Kenny.
Go ahead.
Your thoughts on one of the most hotly debated videos of all time, which is the Patterson Gimlin film. What are your thoughts on that film?
It's really, really hard to say because, when you had some people that went out to look for Bigfoot and then found a Bigfoot and was able to get the camera out to film the Bigfoot. I don't know, it's tough, by no means am I saying, there's any type of hoax behind it. But, for me, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say because again, it kind of goes back to the fact of, people going out to look for Bigfoot and then finding it. And it's like, I don't know, it's moving pretty slow to get away, in my opinion. But again, I wasn't there. It's good footage, without a doubt. You know, a lot of people have said, you know, that a lot of, you know, movie producers have looked at it and, you know, a lot of different things, you know, in that it could not be debunked, you know, definitely, you know, a lot of stuff like that being said. Um, the only thing with it is when I look up those claims, it's Bigfoot people saying it that believe, you know, so again, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not like one of those guys that goes out and tries to, like, you know, point out anything that's real or not real. Because honestly, you know, especially with technology nowadays, it's getting even more rigid to kind of tell the difference. Usually it's the story behind it that makes a really good video fall apart, because there's so much technology nowadays where you can make something look so real. Even like the amateur filmmaker can do that. So nowadays it's getting more rigid to tell the difference between what's real and what isn't. So for me, I always go to the backstory. And with the Patterson Gimlin, I mean, it's a good, it's good footage. I mean, by no means, again, have I ever said that, you know, it wasn't real. But to me, it's just that there's just a lot of questions there. Again, I mean, you know, Bigfoot's, you know, running, trying to get away. I mean, these guys were on horses and, you know, making noise, doing this and doing that. And they could either be the luckiest people in the world or it's whatever. But again, I, you know, a lot of people ask me, you know, you know, kind of where I get my knowledge and everything. And to be honest with you, I've never studied that film. I've never looked into the background of either gentleman that took it. I get all my history, all my research goes hundreds of years back to the Native Americans who had nothing to gain by coming up with these legends and these stories and I mean that's where they originally came from. So that's when I go back. It's where I get a lot of my information and research from. So anything in like the last 50 to 60 years, I don't really look at it. Again, I go way back and then just kind of work my way up to the modern day, to where we are right now. If all that makes sense. I know I kind of rambled on a little bit there, but
you make perfect sense, man. That's why I tell Wayne and them the shows I watch. You know, and I actually go back and look because I got Cherokee in my nation, plus the Appalachian here in Cherokee, Red Clay's right here, and I went. You know, I've studied a lot with them knowing about up in North Carolina. There, you know, there was something about a spirit finger. There's an Indian called Spirit Finger that was supposedly, I guess, the controller of Bigfoot or something, or made part of it or something. But yeah, I go back and look at the Native Americans, and I agree with that 100%. Back in history, if it's in history, then somewhere it got something's there. You can't put your finger on it. But yeah, you're 100%. I mean, you're right on a button. Back to the book. You say you finished writing a book?
I had one that released in February, which was the Young Readers chapter book. And then I've got another one releasing a nonfiction, like young adult to adult book releasing in June. We're looking at a June release date right now. Okay. So it was supposed to release back in February, March, but it got delayed, which was good because I ended up going back in and redoing some of the work that I did. I added to some of it. I wasn't originally going to have any sketches in it of Sasquatch, but I've got some of those that are now going to be in it. And in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be making an announcement. But there's something that's really, really awesome and really big with this book. Cool. That I'm extremely excited about. And there's two things that are being added into it. And again, in another couple of weeks, I'm going to actually be announcing what that is. I'm holding off right now, even though I could say what it is, but I'm holding off right now.
You got to give your fans, a little, got to dangle it. It's like fishing. You got to dangle it out there.
Exactly. And it's to be honest with you, in all my years of, writing and, used to be, I guess, used to be a musician. I used to play out all the time, all over the place, and and all the things that I've done through my life. Like, I poured a lot into this book, and I'm really excited about it. And then for the two things that are being added into it right now, it's just huge. It's probably one of the biggest things that I've. It's just again, I don't want to slip up yet because I want to wait until everything's in place. So
doing that, yeah. Well, with the book and everything, have you always had a passion to write?
Yeah, I have. I used to draw a lot when I was younger. Like I used to make like comics and different things like that. And I grew up just loving monsters like the Incredible Hulk, King Kong, Godzilla. And as I got a little bit older, I got into Frankenstein, different monsters and werewolves. And but I always enjoyed writing. I would always write stories and a lot of really, really, really bad ones. But I enjoyed it whether it was good or not. And right around my senior year, I kind of put writing kind of on the back burner and started playing guitar more. Which I get it. Writing music is still writing, but it's very different. Playing in a band, having to depend on 4 or 5 other people to make the music. As a writer, it's like there's people behind the scene, editors, different people, but you can write and not have to worry about somebody showing up to band practice on time. So but for years I played music and put out albums with a bunch of guys, and we did really, really well. And I'd say it was probably 2011 I kind of got back into it and I started writing a little bit, and it's like it felt right. Like I sat down in front of the keyboard and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna write something. And so I started writing, and I've got probably, I don't know, like 40 manuscripts of different books that I've written that are halfway done, 3/4 of the way done, ones that are completely done, but I'm going to go back and redo. And it's the certain ones that I write that I'm like, okay, this is the one I want to present to a publisher. This is the one I'm really passionate about. This one I did, but I more or less learned from this one. It's not necessarily a good story. Learning different aspects of writing. And so yeah, I mean, I've always enjoyed it. Not to the degree where I ever thought like, hey, you know what, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna have a publisher and all that fun jazz. But the first release that I had was back actually in 2014. It was another Young Readers chapter book called Kevin and the Upside Down Halloween. And it was I just had a lot of fun with it. And after that, the publisher that I was with, I fired them. I fired the agent that I had, and then was just kind of going up and down with dealing with life and trying to get this done, get that done. And then I started looking at different agents. Had a couple of them that were interested in signing me, and I just didn't. When you write, you put so much of yourself in it, and I wanted to sign with a company that, when you, like the last company, I'd give them my work, and then when they would give it back to me to look over, I didn't recognize it. Right. It was changed so much, and I didn't want that. And and I get it, that there's certain marketing, certain ways that you have to do things, but I also work in sales and marketing for my full-time job. So I'm just like, some of the things they were telling me, I'm like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. So I ended up doing a lot of research on a bunch of different publishers, and there was a couple of them that wanted to sign me, and I was just like, the way they started doing that talk with me again about how kind of like they were gonna own like 75% of it and all that jazz. So I knew I was gonna send in something I worked on and then get it back and not recognize it. And I ended up coming across the publisher that I'm with right now, and it's been great, very, very professional, and a lot of attention given to me, and it's really helpful. So yeah, from a young age of writing, and just kind of going up the ladder and the pitfalls of writing and being an author, and so here I am now, and again, really excited about this next project I got coming out.
That's great. That was awesome. I know you actually already answered one of the other questions I wanted to ask you about the publisher and everything. You already answered that one. Rick, have you got anything on your end with
Kenny, what experience while researching out in the field has stuck with you the most?
We had this one night that we were out. We have this one area that we research just over and over again. We're actually going out this Wednesday night, but we're not going to tell anybody because we're state shut down, so nobody's supposed to know. But anyway, so we've got this one area that we go out with, and last summer I was out, and when we go out, like we have people that stay at base camp, and we're on two-way radios, and we always go out with two people. Nobody goes out alone. And I was out with another researcher, and we kind of felt like there was somebody kind of like in the woods, just kind of like following along, kind of watching us. We shined some lights over there. We couldn't see anything, but we could still hear something moving. And it wasn't like it's like like a raccoon type of thing. Like whatever it was sounded like it was making some noise moving along. Again, we couldn't necessarily see what it was, but we could tell that something was there and following us. Usually animals in the woods, they try to get away from you. My understanding and from the research I've done is, yes, Sasquatches will try to get away from you, but I also think that there's times where we're kind of like their entertainment, and they watch us, and they're paying attention to us. So that experience kind of stuck out. That same night, we everybody knows about like tree knocks and stuff like that. Well, we at the New York Bigfoot Society, when we do it, we actually use rocks. We don't use sticks, because if you ever notice, like when you hear a tree knock, it's always consistent and sounds the same. But yet when you do it, if you do it with a stick, depending on like the width of the stick, how old it is, whatever, you always get a different kind of sound to it. We've noticed when we use rocks and we throw rocks at the trees, we get that same consistent knock sound that we hear when we hear a knock back. And some people believe that Sasquatch are aliens. I personally believe they're flesh and blood, and I don't even want to say believe. I'd say my theory is that they're flesh and blood. And if you primates are known for clanging rocks together and doing different things like that. So so that same night we end up we're throwing rocks at trees, and we've got digital recorders up all through the woods, and so we did one. It was a real loud knock sound, and about 45 seconds later, again out in the middle of nowhere, this is probably midnight, 1 a.m. in the morning, we hear like the same exact sound about 45 seconds later, knock back. And there was no wind, so it's not like like the trees were kind of swaying, and because sometimes like a tree that's kind of moving or swaying can make kind of like a crack noise that can kind of sound like a knock. It wasn't. It was calm. It was the dead of summer. It was still warm out. So again, when we heard that knock, it was about 45 seconds later, and we were out in the middle of nowhere. So there's something going on in the woods. I can absolutely tell you that there's something going on out in the woods. I'm not going to say that experience, that night was absolutely a Sasquatch. Can't say that because I didn't actually see one, but there was a lot of weird stuff going on. We've had some rocks thrown at us. Again, weird stuff. Middle of nowhere. There's nobody around us. So definitely some experiences that have really, really stuck out and kind of stayed with us.
Awesome.
All right, guys, I've got Gary back here. I'm gonna bring him back in, and I'm gonna ask him the same question. Gary, are you there?
Yo, what's up?
Hey man, sorry about all the technical
Dude,
difficulties.
no,
Uh,
don't, dude. It's like Bigfooting, man. We get blob squatch pictures. Technology never works. It's the same thing here, man. You know how it is.
Are
I,
you there, Gary?
I'm here.
uh,
Same thing.
I
I'm
just
a
got
blob squatch right now. That's it. We're good.
I just got through asking Kenny what his most memorable experience while doing this out in the field, and I'm going to ask you the same question, Gary.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I have so many. It's hard to pick one. Like I tell everybody, I've seen one, but I haven't seen one, and that's where I leave it.
We might have lost him
One time,
again.
can you hear me?
I can hear him.
I can hear him.
All right. So,
Oh, can you?
all
Okay.
right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
hear.
So, after doing the America's Book of Secrets show, I went back up to our research area, and with my team at the time. And we were coming. I was coming down the trail. I had a monoscope with me, right? A vision monoscope. And honestly, like I was just kind of fooling around in the woods. I was at this point in time. It was super late. It was about 1 a.m. I was tired. I was all out of caffeine. No more Monster Energy drinks. No anything. And so next, I started walking down the trail, and I look up, and legit something huge. I would say about 7 to 8 feet tall was standing behind a tree, just staring at me. Now I could only see the one part of the creature, so that's why I will tell you I saw one, but I didn't see one because I didn't see it looking clear as day. Um, Honestly, the minute I locked eyes with it, I've actually got nervous. I've been doing this a long time, but I'm like sitting there staring. We were just having like a stare off, and then legit, it blinked at me, and it turned and it walked to its left and went right through the woods. So it was like I want to say like a magical experience because it kind of was like it put this whole thing of Bigfoot for me into like reality. Like I know what I saw. Well, all these witnesses that come talk to me all the time, and I'm taking down all their claims. I kind of can understand that feeling because I had that same feeling when we kind of were just locking eyes together. For me, that was like my aha moment, kind of, because like I say, like I know what I saw, but because I didn't see it in the clear daylight, clear as day, I won't say that it wasn't 100%. It was a squatch, and that's kind of where I leave that.
Okay. Well, since you said it with that experience and everything, um, both of y'all probably have dipped into this. Um, since y'all deal with paranormal stuff too, I know that's kind of side to side. About Gary, it's kind of for you, and both of you can actually answer if you want to. Um, why do you think people think they may have paranormal powers? As if uh, the only one I know in my mind is they call it the Cherokee Devil, and he's supposed to have red eyes that can actually make you, um, I guess, do things that you don't want to do and control you a little bit. So why do you think people think that? I mean, my opinion probably because back in the day, the Cherokee Indians, I mean, they say something about it. So go ahead.
Just so you guys know, I can't hear Gary.
You can't.
No, I can't hear him. So I don't know. That's why before I was saying I think we had lost him because I can't actually hear him. So I'm gonna let Gary jump on this and just let me know when he's done talking because again I can't hear him and I don't want to cut him off.
Okay, Gary, you still there? Did you get that question?
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. I got you there, bud.
All right. I heard a little bit. You're cut out a little bit. So I heard with Bigfoot and paranormal, and that's what I heard. And I guess I'll kind of put my sense on the Bigfoot paranormal phenomena.
Okay.
The thing with I don't really put Bigfoot as a paranormal thing. I put Bigfoot in a whole different aspect of itself. Now, as a Bigfoot researcher, I'm sure you guys have probably had these kind of experiences also. I believe that we get hit with infrasound. Okay, so I believe that when paranormal things are happening in the Bigfoot field per se, that what it is that all the largest mammals, they give off infrasound. The elephants, the whales, tigers, they give off that sense to basically communicate. Elephants do it to communicate. Whales do it to communicate. So it would mean to me that the largest possible human type primate and I don't really think it's an ape. I think it's more of a wild human than an ape because the DNA studies go that way. That they would be able to cause an infrasound type behavior to kind of put us in shock. Okay, so when you hear, the flight or fright aspects of things like that, I've had that happen personally. There's many times where I'm in the woods. I know I have something around me, and I know like I have my squatches around me. I'm just gonna flat out say it. I'm getting rocks thrown at me. What throws rocks in the middle of the woods? We're like 5-6 miles in the woods. So, we're getting these things start to happen. And next thing you know, it's like, boom, you get nervous. You get that flight or fright. Like you get goosebumps out of nowhere. You feel like you don't belong there out of nowhere. What then science would tell us, if we put science to this, is that you could be encountering an infrasound type thing where that squatch is basically sending out infrasound somehow. I don't know how they do it. I've never seen one do it. But it would make logical sense that since all the other largest animals on the planet do give off infrasound, the squatch would be able to do the same. Humans give off infrasound as well, just a different variable decibels and things like that. So if we go by the theory that everything in life has a frequency, from radio frequency to just regular frequency in general, animals, when they roar, they give off frequencies and talk. A squatch would have a frequency also. And then that could definitely cause effect on us as humans in one way or another. And then that would then, as a researcher, some people may think that they're having a paranormal experience, but in all they're really happening is they're dealing with infrasound. We find this in the paranormal when we ghost hunt, that people get EMF poisoning, okay? High levels of electromagnetic fields makes people sick. So they end up thinking they're having paranormal experiences when all it is they have a lot of electricity going through their house, copper wiring, grounded to pipes and things like that. Guess what? Your house is now an EMF trap. What would make it any different when you're in the woods, when if a possible huge creature could give off infrasound? It's the same type of feeling. All right. And I get this time and time again. There's been plenty of times I've been on camping expeditions with big profile Bigfoot researchers. We'll be sleeping and we'll wake up the next day and people will be like, yo, and they won't ever come out and really say it. But you look at them and be like, yo, I think we had an infrasound encounter last night. Like, did you feel like that? Like, I got up out of bed and wanted to kill somebody. Because you get like that flight or fright. Like, it's either them versus us. And I'm sure so many people have had it. I'm one of the few people that probably talk about it.
I hear you. Kenny, did you hear it? You didn't hear any of that, did you?
None of it. No.
He actually brought it out as the what was it again, Garrett? The infrasound, thinking that they put out an infrasound, thinking that making people think it's paranormal with that question and everything, which actually kind of answered Rick. That kind of answered our number 3 question there for do they able to communicate? And I kind of agree with Gary on that one. I do. Using that sound and that's the type of communication. Plus, as you said, Kenny, with the rocks and the chat. You believe they chatter, don't you? I mean, have a communication kind of way.
I've heard that. Yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah, Gary, he couldn't hear you on that one. Having difficulty on that side. Rick, what you got, my man? You got something for Gary there, and kind of.
Okay,
it's really cool. I don't mean to interject, but you
back to both.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I don't mean to interject because I heard you talking about chatter, and I love that you talked about that. Actually, when I went out to my research area this week, exactly what we heard was chatter. All right, and it was awesome. Like, it's one of those things that, as a researcher, you only know when you're in the woods. I was basically up in the area. I set up trail cameras, which aren't to catch squatches. First off, people say, "Oh, why do you use trail cameras?" I don't care. I don't want to catch a squatch on a trail camera. I need to know what environmental conditions are going on. I need to monitor the deer population. I need to monitor the bears. I need to monitor what animals are where. Then that will tell me if there's a possible apex predator in that area. Like, let's just be real. I mean, you got to look at it logically. Now, as I went up there on Wednesday, actually, I had to pull down digital recorders that I set up on Tuesday. So I have 82 hours of woods audio to listen to. Screw my life. So much to listen to, okay?
Wow.
But this is what we do. This is why we do the research. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's great. If you love listening to those ambient nature sounds, it'll put you to sleep real quick. But at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, it's mind numbing. But now the story goes with the chatter is I come to find out that the last 2 weeks that I've been up there in this research area, from 7 o'clock to 7:30 is when it seems the activity starts to pick up. It's funny, as I listened to one of the recorders the other day, when I was there pulling them off the tree, I got 2 whoop calls at me. All right, but I did not hear them. What happened was I was down in a ravine area, so the whoop calls came from up over the hill. One was calling to another one. We got one whoop that was very close to us. Another one was way up in the mountains more, so they were communicating with each other. When we got back to camp, and I started kind of, dicking around and getting ready to, get the night going, we heard something right across from our camp, which there's a mountain. There's basically a big hill that goes to a huge mountain across from our camp, the high ground. I believe that the Squatches in our area always will use the high ground. All right. Think about it. Any kind of like advantage anything would have in life, you always go for the high grounds because they can watch you come from the high. They're safe up there. Well, we heard them slowly coming to our camp. All right. And we could hear them bipedal walking down. Then it all stopped. All right. Within about 15 minutes, you start hearing the chatter. All right. It's just a lot of like mumbling, but you could hear it like it was lips. They were talking. There was a male chatter and there was a female type chatter. Now, when I say female type chatter, that doesn't mean it's a female. We believe that the area that we're in is a juvenile area. Okay. A lot of the behaviors that we're finding are from a juvenile Squatch. I personally believe after 10 years of research in this one area, we're dealing with a nursery. Okay. They come into here in the spring. This is the time of year that they're very active. Okay. There's lots of hiker encounters and other encounters of people coming in contact with Squatches in this area. I believe that once again, the female type chatter that we may have been hearing would be a juvenile Squatch. All right. We also found a 14-inch track by 5 inches wide, right outside our camp area. So the chatter, once again, would almost once give off an infrasound type thing. Let's be honest. There is a possibility that when they're chattering to each other, at the same exact time when they were chattering, we were getting our goosebumps were up, our bodies were reacting in a very sensitive way. So with that being said, it could be a point to go into the direction of research of infrasound. The only reason I say this is because after all the research I've done and all the researchers I've been around, a lot of them will say that when they're in the woods, you get that flight or fright type feeling when Squatches are getting close. And sure enough, when they chatter, this was actually only the second time ever I've heard them chatter. And it was clear as day, and it was the weirdest experience. The person that I was with heard chatter also. So it's just one of those weird experiences. So I know exactly what you mean by the chattering.
Awesome. We got one of our viewers, Scottish Wildman. Can Gary? Can you see the screen on here? Can you see that? Kenny, I know you see it. Can you see it? It says.
I can
talking
see
to me?
it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, but can you see the screen that popped up? The question from one of our listeners, the Scottish Wildman, says, "Does any of you wear a HEC or HECS suit when you go out in the field?" Which that's kind of new to me. I don't know.
What is it? I don't know what it. What is an HECS suit? I've never actually heard of that. So we wouldn't. I mean, if I don't know what it. Yeah, I don't know what a HECS suit is. I can tell you when we go into the field, this is what we wear, right? And Kenny can go to that. I make my team have all the survival things in a rucksack. Okay, like I say, as a mountaineer, I come very prepared. So we have all the essentials, and I make them strip their stuff down like military style and strip it back up. All right, because I'm not gonna have any kind of accidents out there. You just don't know. But what I bring in the field is very, very simple. All right. First off, I don't believe in wearing camouflage out while you're Bigfooting. All right. Bigfoots know that you're there even before you're there. I'm an avid bow hunter. When you go into the woods, they know that you're there. All right. And you're not going to fool a foot. You're just not going to fool Sasquatch. It's just not going to they know that you're there. Maybe a juvenile you may come up on because they're, what's a juvenile? They're less in tune to their environment. And a lot of the sighting reports you do hear are of juveniles. but you're just not going to ever, in my opinion, they're the apex predator of the forest, hence why we can't find them. You're just not going to fool one by wearing a camouflage suit and going up in there. I always wear really bright colors. I want to be seen. So when I go in the woods, I'm wearing bright red, bright orange. I want them to see me. I want to communicate with them. You know what I mean? A lot of the ways that what we do when we go into the woods is I set up different kinds of gifting stations, but during the gifting stations, I set up different types of things. I set up letters. I set up some food. We put toys and things like that for them to interact with. Our whole goal isn't to prove that Bigfoot is real. Our goal is to come up with a way that we can interact with them, know we're interacting with them, and then learn more from them. And then we can help our witnesses that come to us all the time saying they're thinking they're crazy because they've seen this huge thing. And we're like, no, you're not crazy, all right? You know what you see, and we're here for you. So I wear very bright colors. Now, I don't bring any guns. I bring bear mace, and I always say I bring bear mace for people, not for bears. I'm not scared of bears. You just don't know who you're going to see in the woods. People come in the weirdest places. I'm just saying. We carry knives. I'm a bushcrafter. I do bushcraft on the side, so I carry all that type of equipment, and we just go out there. You know what I mean? And what I found in all the years of doing Bigfoot research is less is more. The more we tried, I'm a data person. As being a science person, all my schooling is in science. I study animal behavior. I'm an animal behaviorist. That's my real college stuff. And the more that we sit there and go into the woods, and I'm a dots guy. Like, I'll put the data down. I'm writing stuff on paper. I'm doing all that stuff. You know what I mean? Because I'm a science nerd. But what I find is when we're just out there hanging out by a campfire, chilling, eating some good junk food, drinking the caffeine, talking the talk, that is when we get all this stuff to start to happen. We are Bigfoot's TV. We're their reality TV. They want to come in and see what we're doing, they'll come in. And if they don't want to come in and see what we're doing, they're not going to. What I do believe, though, is they can tell you apart from other people. I do believe that there is a way that they know what you sound like. They don't know all the words. And, I've talked to a lot of Native Americans. I go by a lot of the Native American lore up in New York, the Iroquois and things like that, and talk to shamans and all these people that have dealt with Bigfoot. And they can understand certain words. One thing that I did notice this past week, and this is all brand new information that I haven't really talked about yet, every time we kept saying the word friends over and over in the woods, activity would start happening. I don't know if they realize what that word means. I don't know if it's just this reverberation of the sound and the letters that we're saying coming out of our mouth. But every time I said the word friends, next thing you know, that's when the chatter would start happening. That's when the rock got thrown into camp. That's when, we would hear them move around and stop. So if that means anything to anybody, maybe you've had a similar encounter, but that's something new that I've actually have seen this year, is that they seem to understand certain sounds.
All right, Gary, going back to the giftings you just spoke about, you said you left various items out at gifting stations. What is the most common item that would actually be taken by the Sasquatch that you leave out?
I think we lost him again.
No, I didn't. I just didn't hear the question.
Gary, are you there?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
read it again. He couldn't hear it.
Okay, Gary, you were talking about gifting. Of all the items that you leave out, what would you say would be the most single item that the Bigfoot actually takes from your gifting areas?
The most single what?
What would be the most single item that the Bigfoot actually takes from your gifting area?
You broke up a little bit, but the most single maybe piece of evidence, is that what you said, or most single?
He was talking about
you're breaking up, so I'm trying to put.
He was asking when you're gifting, like
Okay, gifting, yep.
what's the most thing that is taken from your gifting as that you can?
Okay, I can hear you fine. All right. So what I find over the years, okay, when I'm gifting things, is what the things that I'm seeing that are getting interacted with is usually the apples. Okay, in New York State we have lots of apple orchards, so they seem to, once again, a Squatch would know what an apple is, just like most animals in the forest, deer, etc. So one thing that I think that I've learned recently, though, that I was talking to another person that actually has a habitation area on his property. He's had him for a very long time. The guy is an awesome gentleman. I've been in contact with him for years. And one thing he said to me, he goes, Gary, this year I want you to start putting 2 apples out, not 1, 2, because Bigfoot share. Okay, what he's found out at his property with his wife is that a Squatch will never just take 1. You have to put 2, because a lot of the stories and a lot of the encounters that you hear is there is sharing situation. They do share. Same thing when we build rock herons. Okay, like I posted a rock heron on the website, on our Facebook page. The thing is, when they add and subtract, they're always doing it in a sharing way. They take 1, you take 1. All right. So one thing I've started doing this year is putting 2 apples or 2 of everything out there. This is the strange thing, that this is brand new information that I haven't really talked about because I haven't seen Kenny in a hot second. But I made a V, okay, out of sticks. I took 2 sticks and made a V, thinking once again trying to communicate in some way, shape, or form. Well, when I came back, I did that on Tuesday. When I came back on Wednesday, something messed around with the V and put them closer together, and they were out of whack. So once again, I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm looking at the picture from the day before, and I'm looking at the picture, and it was you could tell that it's been moved. With that being said, what I'm starting to really do see is Squatches do understand certain alphabetical symbols in Native American culture and other. You hear about one thing you do hear about that I've started using is the Chinese alphabet. Okay. A lot of people think that, Squatches arrived from Asia, all right? They came across the land bridge, blah, blah, blah. But I'm hearing a lot of researchers that are out there that have started using the Chinese alphabet. Now, when I say that, the old Chinese alphabet, which you can find some of the stuff on the internet. And I've started making symbols meaning certain things out of that alphabet, and that seems to be what they're interacting with. Do I think they, I don't know if they know what they mean per se. Honestly, I would not know that. But what I do know is that those shapes that we're making, they're actually interacting with those shapes. So as of right now, as far as gifting is concerned, I would say if you're going to gift, always put 2 out there, 1 for yourself and 1 for a Squatch. That's number 1. And then number 2, when you start doing all these stick structures and all these different things, really think about what you want to accomplish with them, because there may be a language that you're talking with. It's kind of like when you hear about the Sierra Sounds. Great footage. Those sounds are amazing. But one thing I would never do is go call blast those things in the woods, because we don't know what those sounds mean. We don't know. Yeah, it might be cool because we finally got a Bigfoot, screaming at us. That's like legit. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to go at my research area and start call blasting, and then I don't know what that means, and they come in and they rip me apart. You know what I mean? That's the thing. And this is the one thing that I differ on a lot of people when it comes to Bigfoot. I always err on the side of safety. Okay, a lot of people say 99% they'll never hurt you. Well, yeah, they won't, because I've come out of the woods every single time so far. But we need to remember, just like we have a bad day, they're gonna have bad days some days. Just like animals have bad days. So we need to always just err on the side of safety. And that's one thing I always make sure to tell everybody, because we get kind of complacent when we're in the woods trying to communicate with something, and you got to remember that we don't know exactly still what we're communicating with.
Okay. That question earlier, that one, or Scottish Wild Mind said something about the suit thing. He did give an answer. It says it's clothing that blocks your EMF that produces from your body. That's new to me. I did not know that. that's actually pretty it kind of got me tweaked in my mind to actually get one and try one if you can find one. That's what that
Yeah,
was.
it's trial. Honestly, it's all trial and error, man. Like, I mean, with this whole phenomena of communication, that is like my drive right now. My personal drive going into 2020 has been straight communication. I don't honestly care if I see one or not. I don't care. That's not my goal. My overall goal is to form a relationship, and I think that's one thing that gets kind of missed when we do research. I've been very blessed to be able to travel the United States doing different TV shows and stuff like that, in different Squatchy areas, but I'm not learning anything. I want to learn from the Squatches that are in New York. I want to go back to these research areas week after week and see what we're learning from them. And that to me is the key. I think that gets lost with a lot of researchers that just want to travel and see all the cool things and meet all the cool people. And I mean, it's great, but we're never going to really learn anything unless you're in the woods. So many people, don't go in the woods as much that often, and that's where we're going to learn the education of a Squatch. And that's my new goal for 2020. And honestly, we're starting to get results from this, and the only reason I'm getting results is because I'm talking to the people that have these things on their property that don't want to come public with it. They will talk to people they trust, and this is where we're going to learn these kind of abilities and skills.
True. I agree with that. Kenny, he was talking about, I lost him. I had a brain fart. He was talking about actually knowing the skills and being in one area and learning what they do and what they can do.
Yeah.
I guess with both of y'all, this would be a question actually for both of you. I know, Gary, I don't know, can you hear Kennedy when he talks? Gary?
What'd you say? You cut out for a sec.
I was wanting to check your audio. Can you hear Kenny when he's speaking? Because he can't hear you at all. I'm doing triple things here. I'm trying to keep him in the loop here. But can you hear him when he actually talks?
Did you just ask if we're having any talks?
No, can you hear when I ask Kenny something? Can you hear him actually respond back? Are you able to hear Kenny?
Kenny,
speak. See if
Hey.
he can hear you. Did you hear him?
Can you hear me, Gary? Can you hear me?
Did you hear Kenny on that one?
You keep cutting out on me.
Okay. Yes. All right.
So
Okay.
we can't hear each other.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Kenny, this question's for you.
It's a blob squatch.
What would you say is the most common and annoying question you get asked regarding Bigfoot?
Thank you, Rick.
All right. I would say the most common and annoying question I get asked would definitely be there's a big part of me, I'm not just a believer. I'm also a skeptic because I haven't personally seen with my own eyes. Not that other people's experiences aren't very telling, but I'll get people that will ask me, so why do you do what you do? If you're a skeptic and you don't 100% believe, why do you do what you do? And my simple answer is just, you don't have to 100% believe in something to be interested in the subject. I've loved the subject of creatures and folklore ever since I can remember. I mean, I just remember being a young kid, maybe 5 or 6, and seeing the Disney cartoon version of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And, again, for me, it's like I don't have to believe in something 100%, be, all feet in order to actually really be interested in the subject. And, especially when it comes to any type of cryptid, I mean, the unknown is what really attracts me to it. The folklore behind it, the legends behind it is what really, really attracts me to it. So, yeah, I mean, I believe that there's something out there, and I have a lot of my own theories of what it is. But yeah, the biggest question is, why do you do this? If you don't 100% believe. And again, I mean, there's lots of things that we do that we invest a lot of time into that we don't necessarily 100% maybe or believe 100%, but I'm intrigued by it, and I love the subject. I think it's, out of anything out there, I think it's one of the most. What's the best way to put this? It's, for me, it's the unknown is just extremely exciting, and again, in the legends that go behind it, just for me, it's just really intriguing, and it really draws me in. But out of all the questions, that's the one that kind of drives me crazy, for the simple fact too, when it's asked to me, it's usually somebody being kind of snarky too, because I get asked to be in different groups, or I'm sure you guys do, too, like these Sasquatch groups, these cryptid groups, and because I don't chime in on really anything in the groups, I just kind of look. I'll have people be like, well, what, you're not passionate about it, this and that, why do and again, it's usually kind of snarky when it comes in, and it's a very loaded question. So out of all of them, that's probably the one that if I had to say one bugs me, that's probably the one that would bug me the most, because again, it's just one of those setup ones, as in okay, well, if you're not a believer, what's the point? What's your point? And it's just it doesn't always work like that. So
True. Well, guys, Rick, I know we've kind of went over our thing. For, I guess, Gary, I know his mic's mute. Gary's mic's there. What could you tell our viewers and fans when they're going out to Sasquatch? Both of y'all, I guess, we could let Gary. We'll get Gary to answer that one first. Did you hear the question, Gary?
I can answer the same question.
Yeah.
What do I think a Sasquatch is? Is that what I think? That's what he said.
No.
Yeah.
What?
What I personally believe.
Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. What I personally believe, what a Sasquatch isn't Gigantopithecus, isn't an unknown primate as far as an ape. I really believe it's a wild human. And when I say wild human, it's not a human like us, obviously, but it is some form of humanoid type. I hate the word just creature, but we'll say hominid. The reason I believe that is because one of two things. One, during communication with these things, they do understand. They do have an understanding. As we communicate with them, gifting, things like that, they do respond back. So that's number one for me. Number two is 90% of the witness testimony that I get from all the witnesses that come forward, they all say the same. And maybe maybe it's a New York thing, maybe, that a lot of these creatures have a human type face, that there's no hair on their face, and maybe that's the New York Squatch, or the Eastern Coast Squatch, but there's no hair on their face. A lot of them have cleft palates, all right, so they look like they're inbred in some ways. But when they see them and they look at their face, it looks like a person. So to me, that then leaves it in a wild human type situation. If you listen to the Native American tribes, they consider Bigfoot a tribe of its own. They say they're a people, they're a tribe, and you hear this again and again and again. So if we're going to go by Native American folklore and lore, and we understand that the Native Americans didn't have cameras back then, so what would they do? They used to carve on totem poles and write on rocks and things like that. They drew the pictures. That was their camera. Then it would kind of go towards, you know what, maybe we are dealing with a wild type, human type hominoid that understands our behaviors. And you got to remember, Bigfoot would be the master of its environment. So, of course, we wouldn't be able to really find them a lot of times because there's not many of them. And they, we're not into with the woods like animals are. So that's kind of where I leave Bigfoot, as like a wild type humanoid.
Okay.
All right, guys, as a researcher, the most common question I get asked by anybody that, that doesn't believe in Sasquatch is, they'll ask me, well, what makes you believe? And then the question is, if these things exist, where's the bones? That's the biggest thing I get asked. What are y'all's feelings on that question?
I don't think Gary heard
I
you.
didn't hear the question. I didn't hear it.
See if you can get them to hear it there, Derek.
He's asking the most common question or thing that we always get is where are the bones? Where is evidence? I guess Kenny, you can probably answer that first, and then we'll get Gary, and we'll kind of ease out of here. We're kind of running over, but what do y'all got that same question?
So the question is, how come they haven't found any bones?
Yeah, that's what we're told. Everybody always asks the bones. Where's this? Why we ain't about a body? Things like that. What's your opinion?
It's a real tough question because I'll hear a lot of people. There's the saying, well, have you ever found a dead animal in the woods? Have you ever found my answer is always yes, I have. I've got a lot of hunter friends that come across dead animals in the woods. And a lot of the time that, a lot of folks that are saying the question, well, how come, we've never, have you ever found a dead bear in the woods? A lot of the time, again, it comes down to it's a Bigfooter, saying that, not necessarily somebody that doesn't believe. So, as far as I'm concerned, I believe, or again, my theory is, that they're flesh and blood. And, if you go back and you research, again, Native American history, they were very smart, and they were very much like us. So, it wouldn't surprise me if they did bury it. I've heard people say, well, they eat each other, that they're cannibals. And but in all honesty, when you go back and you look at the research and you go way back, a lot further, than like the last 50 or 60 years, you'll see that there's a lot that's talked about how they're very much like us in many ways, and they're very intelligent. So I can only say that I would believe that they're burying. The other thing is, we don't know exactly where they're living. I heard, that there's underground tunnels, there's caves, there's this and that. Who knows? Maybe that's where they put them too. It's hard to say, but again, for the research that I've done, and with a lot of them being very much like us, even though they are an animal. I personally would say that they probably bury their dead like we do.
I agree with that 100%. Guys, I know it's been an honor for having you guys on here tonight. We're got to kind of wrap it up a little bit, and I would love to put the invitation out there to get y'all both on again. Maybe we get to, I don't know what happened with the technical difficulty. I apologize on that. Maybe we can get, do it again, definitely. I got so many more questions, especially for both of you, and love to hear again. I know our fans would too. Rick, you got anything? Anything you want?
Yeah, we really enjoyed having you both on, and as Derek said, we're more than pleased, and we really want you to come back on. You have a standing invitation anytime you guys want to come on and be with us and share your stories and your research. Just feel free to do so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As far as the technical difficulties, that happens. It happens on every other show. So no worries. Gary and I have dealt with this enough to it's sometimes it's it's just part of the way it goes. So.
Well, we also got, I'm sure there's a ton of people on the system too that's kind of slowing things down too. So,
sure.
I mean,
Sure.
it happens.
Yeah, just remember when technology goes wonky, it's called a blob squatch. Okay, it's a blob squatch happening. That's what you got to call it. So technology will always do this. Okay, we see it all the time. So when your technology goes wonky, and I have a radio show, I've had it happen. You just be like, "Oh, the blob squatch is done. Okay, here we go with this nonsense." So you got it, man. No, it was a good time. Thank you so much for having us. It was a good time, and we'll definitely do this again. There's so much that we could all learn from each other. I think that's super important, especially throughout the country. Like I say, like I've been, I've just been very lucky to meet so many different people, and I try to share those experiences with everybody. But I mean, one thing, if we can get one thing out of this show tonight, and this is something brand new, and I'm trying to bring you brand new stuff, is that gifting, when we do gifting, make sure to always do two, at least two, because one for them and one for us, because that's something that I see many people only doing, not really doing. And the other thing is, let's try to start forming an alphabet and using those kind of things with squatches, because they may understand more than we know. And if we can get that data down to, and we can get seeing that things keep happening over and over again, we could be on the brink of forming a communication and almost like an alphabet for these creatures. So, it was a lot of fun, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Kenny, any final last thoughts?
Yeah, just again, thank you for having us. I believe you guys go out as well. Just be safe and make sure you've got somebody with you. And for anybody that was wondering, between me and Gary, I'm the good-looking one, so that's why my camera's actually on. No, he'll hear this on the playback,
hairdo.
But
no, he heard you. He heard you. He said the hairdo. He heard you.
That's GQ.
Nice.
He's GQ. I'm a mountain man.
We'll definitely come back on, and just again, everybody out there, just be safe when you're out in the woods. Be safe when you're out in public. With the whole COVID, and hopefully we'll get things open back up, and these conferences and lectures and appearances that myself and Gary's going to be at, we'll continue to go on, and we can meet everybody, and definitely talk Bigfoot and all things cryptid.
Cool deal. All right, Rick, you got the magic button there, man.
All right, guys, we really appreciate it. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Very glad to be here with you tonight. And folks, I always say this at the end of our shows, as always. As both Gary and Kenny have said tonight, if you're out there, you're in the woods, you run across one of these things, just back out, folks. Be careful, be safe, and catch you later.
Peace, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, buddy. Keep it squatchy.
Go ahead and hit your button there, Rick.
All right, man.
Everybody,
be safe, be cool, and be careful with this coronavirus.
Yeah, be safe, guys.
Catch you later.
See ya.